Hyundai and Genesis got a lot of things right with the Ioniq 5 and the GV60. In fact, I think they're both really special EVs. So today, I'm going to take a little break from all the bad stuff and actually share with you guys what I think makes this Ioniq 5 and this GV60 special. So let's start with a quick personal update first. Some of you guys know from a previous video that our son Zeke, who is a premature baby, was born 2 months ago at 28 weeks. Original plan was that he would probably stay there for up to 3 months. But there's been a lot of ups and downs. Currently, he's just retaining too much fluid. That makes it harder for him to breathe, and his lungs are just still not quite as developed. So there's a good chance he could be there for up to 4 months. Definitely a little tired, a little exhausted. And the thought that there might be 2 more months like this still is a little daunting. But hey, he is getting bigger and stronger, and hopefully it's just a matter of time. So thank you all for the prayers and support. Now you might be thinking, well, hey, you probably haven't had that much time to really drive your EVs, right? Well, it's actually been quite the opposite. Let me throw some numbers at you. The average American spends about 50 minutes per day commuting in the car. Over a week, that's about 4.5 hours. Over a month, that's about 22 hours. And over 2 months, that would be about 44 hours. But personally, over the past 2 months, I've done about 200 hours of commuting in a car. Over a week, that would be 25 hours. So just on a week-to-week basis, I'm basically driving for a full day each week, and I've done that for the past 8 weeks. So a lot of driving, just constantly going back and forth between the hospital while still working. I've been in our cars just a lot. And that's actually given me a really good opportunity to remember what makes these EVs so special. So let's start with the Ioniq 5. Now, of those 200 or so hours, I've actually only spent about 20, maybe 30 hours in our Ioniq 5. For one, Hyundai had it for about 2 months. And then when we finally got it back and my wife started driving, it became her daily driver. And so I've just kind of only had it here and there. So what makes the Ioniq 5 special? Number one, to me, is the exterior styling, the looks of this car. To me, this thing looks special. I look at it every day, and I still think it looks amazing. And I'm starting to see more of these on the road, and every time I see one, I get really excited. Like, I'm staring at it, trying to tail it. And again, I own one, but I just can't get enough of looking at it because of how crazy and how awesome it looks. The Hyundai Group did an amazing job designing this EV. And it's not just Hyundai, it's the Hyundai, Kia, Genesis. Their entire lineups all have cars with so much flair and design. They're not boring. I think they all look fantastic. So to the design teams at Hyundai Group, Kia, Genesis, keep doing what you guys are doing. The second thing that I think makes this Ioniq 5 special is actually the view that I get out from this driver's seat. Now, having spent so much time in the Genesis GV60 recently, this car feels like it's 2 or 3 feet wider, but in reality, they're about the same width. And lengthwise, yeah, this one's longer, but there's just this feeling between the seat and the windshield that's so much bigger. And the result is that when you're in this car, you feel like you're in something much bigger. You feel like you're just kind of lounging and relaxing because there's big windows, excellent sight lines. Kind of makes me think this is what it would feel like to sit in the Pope-mobile, because on top of all that, everyone's staring at you. And this view, I think, is special. All right, moving on. The next 2 things that I think make this Ioniq 5 special actually apply to the GV60, as well as the EV6, and in fact, all the eGMP cars out there. Number 1 has to do with charging speed. In ideal conditions, these cars are charging beasts. 10 to 80% in about 18 minutes is ridiculously fast. In most cases, that's just long enough to get your kids out of the car, to the bathroom, back in the car, and you're done. 10 to 80%. And let's say you're hooked up to one of the slower 150 kilowatt chargers. Well, even then, that stretches out to maybe 23, 24 minutes. And you got to remember, most of these charging stations are tucked towards the back or the sides of parking lots. It's going to take you 3, 4, even 5 minutes to get to the bathroom and back. So really, I've taken this for granted, but the charging speeds on these EVs is ridiculous. You know, one exercise you can do is take a look at other cars' max charge rates and charging curves, and you'll see that most cars take double, even triple the amount of time. And if you actually just look at cars in this price range, there's really nothing like these cars, these EVs. They charge just so much faster than all the other cars out there that I think it's really special, and it's something, like I said, I've taken for granted. Hyundai Group got the hardware right for these EVs. Like, these cars under ideal conditions can charge blazing fast. The problem is not the hardware here, it's the hardware and the infrastructure of the charging stations, meaning Electrify America. When you go to these chargers, you just never really know what you're gonna get. But again, it's not because of these EVs. These EVs have the hardware in place to do amazing charging speeds, and it kind of depends on the infrastructure. The second thing that makes the Ioniq 5 and GV60 special is actually the regen system. And I feel like every manufacturer should just copy what Hyundai has done. There should be paddles. There should be multiple levels, not just 1 or 2, but like 3, 4, 5 or more. And there should be a way to toggle through them easily, and there should be some kind of auto regen where the car can decide for you what level of regen is most appropriate. Because the tech is here. The tech is in all of these cars to be able to do it. But for some reason, Hyundai Group is the only one that's decided to implement it this way. Hyundai Group has essentially turned braking into an art form, into a game of precision. They've made it fun and enjoyable. They've made braking more than just putting your foot on the brake. They've made it feel customizable to the point where you can tailor your whole braking experience to how you want to drive. Whereas other manufacturers have made you change your driving or your braking habits to fit what they're allowing you to do, whether that's 1 or 2 levels of regen that you have to go through multiple screens to change. And I feel like this is something that I've taken for granted, where I think, if I ever want to drive a different brand or different manufacturer's EV, I won't have these paddles. I won't have this regen system to be able to drive or brake the way that I want to brake. And so I think these are special because no one else is doing it the way they're doing it. On top of that, they just feel really satisfying, really solid clicks. Really well made. Now on to this GV60. And I would say over the past few months, I've done about 170, almost 180 hours in this car. So a lot of time. So what makes this GV60 so special? It's the inside of this car. So Matt Watson from CarWow recently did a range test where he spent time in, I think, 5 or 6 different EVs, back to back to back. I think he did the EQA, he did the Nissan Ariya, the Audi Q4 e-tron, the Model Y, some other stuff, and then also a GV60. And when he got into the GV60, he said, there's just something special about being inside the GV60. And I 100% agree. I mean, it's got pretty much every single feature you would want in terms of creature comforts from a luxury car. You've got the heated seats, the heated steering wheel, the ventilated seats, the massaging seats, and you've got all those on hard touch buttons, not just in a touchscreen. But you do have a touchscreen. You also have a scroll wheel so that if you don't want to use the touchscreen, you don't have to. Then you have a high-end sound system. You've got suede Alcantara everywhere, metal and leather finishes everywhere. This isn't the only EV with all these features. There are other EVs with all the niceties that you would want in a luxury car, but just the way that Genesis has designed it, put it together, the color scheme, this thing feels special. In the same way that the Ioniq 5 feels special on the outside, the GV60 feels special on the inside. And that leads to the second reason I say that this car is special, and that's actually this driver's seat. Many of you know I have a really bad back. I have multiple herniated discs, I have nerve damage, it's a mess back here. And because of all that, once I hit the 2-hour mark in most cars, my back starts feeling not so great. And then if I do that back to back to back on multiple days, by the end of the third or the fourth day, I can barely walk. I can barely stand. Like, I'm just in so much discomfort. And the Ioniq 5 fits that bill. Basically, 2 hours is my max in the Ioniq 5. I can do it a couple days in a row, but if I have to do 3 or 4 hours in that car at a time, multiple days in a row, it gets pretty bad. But this GV60, I haven't found the max yet. Like I said before, I've been doing 25 hours a week, or about 4 hours a day, back to back to back, 7 days a week for 8 weeks. And I feel great. And on top of that, I'm also sitting while I'm in the NICU with my son Zeke. I've been spending about 2 hours there a day recently holding him, and those chairs are not very good. So I'm in pain when I get out of the hospital, and then I jump into the GV60, and all of a sudden I feel great. And I believe the reason that's the case is because this seat has that special ability to kind of customize how firm you want the base cushion. There's an air bladder directly under my butt, and I can play with it and make it softer or firmer, and I think that's saving my back. Just for some context, our previous 2 cars before this GV60 and the Ioniq 5 were actually Volvos. And the reason we bought the Volvos were because I needed cars that had good seats for me, and they were excellent. But before that, man, Hondas, Toyotas, Nissans, Acura, Infiniti, Mini, Audi, Ford, Chevy. I mean, I've been in a bunch of cars. Pretty much all those were the same. Within 2 hours, my back is screaming at me. And then I switched to Volvo, and I thought, man, it's never going to get any better than this. And then I got this GV60. And I got to say, this is it. I think this is the best seat that I've ever had. If you have back issues, herniated discs, this is it. This makes this car special. So we have the super luxurious interior, we have the amazing driver's seat, but then there's another quality here that makes this car special, and that's just the video game like qualities or the funness to it. It's not some boring point A to point B driver. This thing has a lot of character, and like I said, it feels like I'm in a video game. You've got 483 horsepower on tap when you press this little green boost button. And seriously, it might as well be a NOS button, because when you hit it, man, this car completely transforms. And it's not just the speed, it's the sound. They have this pumped in synthetic sound, which some people don't like, but for me, it adds to that video game quality. The driver's display also changes to this cool graphic, and I really feel like I am playing a racing game or a video game. So now you combine just this driving dynamic where it's like a video game, plus the best driver's seat, plus this amazing interior, and you've got a car that just feels special every time you climb in. Whether you're just sitting in it or whether you're driving it, it feels special in ways that a lot of cars just don't. So truthfully, it's been an absolute blast spending time in this car. I absolutely love it.
Go fast. Faster.
Say green button.
Green button.
Ooh.
Faster. Faster.
I gotta wait, dude.
Why?
Because there's cars ahead of us right now.
Go away, car. Go away. Now go fast.
Okay, green button.
Green button. Whoa. Wait, press the green button.
You want me to press the green button?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me go.
Go. Whoa. Again.
Again? Alright, we gotta wait though.
Why?
We got some cars in front of us.
And a 500.
And a fire hydrant.
Yeah.
And so, for me, after 1 year and about 3 months with our Ioniq 5 all-wheel drive limited, and then about 10 months with our Genesis GV60 Performance, I think both of these EVs are really special. What do you guys think? Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.